Of all the important topics Colorado lawmakers are taking up this session, one that has slipped more under the radar is oil and gas. There are a few bills still going through the legislative process aimed at the industry. Denver 7 political reporter MEGHAN Lopez takes us through two, one with bipartisan support and another that's more prickly.
Ever since this moment, the moment in 2017 when a home in Firestone exploded and a family lost a husband and a brother, Colorado has made serious changes to its oil and gas operations. Changes on a local and state level. This legislative session, more potential changes. One bill aims to create a fee-based enterprise to plug orphaned wells. So what is an orphan well? Well, it's a well that was either abandoned by the owner or an operator cannot be found by it. It's essentially an orphan and therefore a ward of the state and the state's responsibility. The EPA estimates that as of 2019, there were 2 million orphan wells across the country, including hundreds here in Colorado, and they are not cheap to plug.
It costs about $100,000 per well to plug one.
Owners and operators would be required to pay into the program, and the money would be used to plug those wells.
Nobody ever wants a repeat of what happened in Firestone, which was kind of unrelated to an orphan well, but it had some connection to that.
The federal government has also committed tens of millions of dollars to Colorado to cap an estimated 625 orphan wells in the state. Normally, Republicans aren't fans of fee-based enterprises. They've criticized them a lot in recent years, but this time around,
this was kind of the only avenue, right? If we took that kind of money and put it into the general fund, the money can be swept by the future legislators.
A second bill is more controversial. It would require oil and gas manufacturers to disclose the chemicals they use in oil and gas operations. Fracking companies are already required to disclose that information, but
they're sort of combination of sloppy or missing materials, and then the big one was a huge use of the term trade secrets. We felt that the public had a right to know what chemicals are used in oil and gas operations.
Unsurprisingly, oil and gas companies oppose the bill.
This legislation is a solution in search of a problem.
They say it's unnecessary and burdensome, and it could hamper the industry.
Colorado on a slippery slope as it relates to intellectual property. It says that a state agency will decide if a private company's intellectual property should be disclosed to the public.
Nevertheless, both bills are still making their way through the legislative process as the clock ticks down to the end of the session. MEGHAN Lopez, Denver 7.
Now, a third bill would require an audit of oil and gas operations and come up with rules for reporting emissions. It would also increase penalties for operators that don't comply with emission notices.
Well, we also talked with the president and CEO of the American Petroleum Institute. Now, he says the oil and gas industry is working to become more environmentally friendly and that Colorado's industry is too integral to our lives and our livelihoods to ignore.
Colorado is an energy leader in this country, and we need to continue to produce here in this state because no one does it better. You have figured out a way to balance the importance of environmental progress while at the same time continuing to produce oil and natural gas that is going to be needed for decades and decades to come.
Now, he goes on to say the U.S. is down 1 million barrels a day of oil production, leading to these higher prices we're seeing. The White House has given its blessing to increase production once again. The API says those state regulations are standing in the way of being able to ramp up production.